and we will begin with today's session. So, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to our panelists,
Good
Pearl
afternoon.
and Kavita. As always, it's a
Thank you,
pleasure
Ekta.
to see you, talk to you, whatever interactions I have, it's always amazing. Uh, we will be beginning today's session by a short introduction of myself. Some of you do know me personally, some of you may not know me personally. For those who don't know me personally, my name is Ekta. I founded Invisible Scars, which is a support group that helps anyone who's facing domestic abuse. I was an entrepreneur for almost 10 years. Then I joined the corporate world, and then I finally switched over to the social space. And I have almost 25 plus years of experience of working. Our group is very, very active on Facebook, and if some of you would like to be part of our Invisible Scars group, you could reach out to any of your friends here on the webinar today. It's a secret group, so you can only join if someone adds you to the group. So you are most welcome to join. We try and center our conversations in Invisible Scars around creating a safe space for women. And today when a woman shares a problem, I've seen a lot of groups and there's a lot of anonymity attached to it. And we want to take away that anonymity and say that you should be in a space where it doesn't matter who you are and who you are with. You should not be scared to share your problems or your story. So we are hoping that when Invisible Scars develops at a later stage, I mean, we are partly there, but not there as yet. But we are hoping that someday we will be in a space where people don't hesitate to use their actual names and profiles to share their problems and their stories. That's a little bit about me. That's a little bit about Invisible Scars. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the context for why we decided to do this, uh, it's been a wonderful journey. I have Pearl is a friend, and I have been working with Kavita, so very regular interactions. Pearl was one of the first people I met when I went to My Choices Foundation. So it is very interesting that we've had this lovely seamless work journey together. um, where when I get a case, I simply refer it to Kavita, or I refer it to someone at My Choices, and I know that person's going to be taken care of. And a lot of you who would be here on the webinar today would have somewhere, maybe not a lot of you, but quite a few of you would have spoken to Kavita or Pearl at some point of time. If you have gone through that domestic abuse journey, you would have been connected to her by me. There is a reason that I go to My Choices Foundation for whatever work I need or help I need, and that is the ability to trust everyone who's there. So, right from the top leadership, which is Elka, to everyone that I interact with on a regular basis, whether it is Archie, whether it is Pearl, whether it is Kavita, and now Soumya, it is just been a very positive. So we've never come to a situation where there has been negativity and we are fighting over how to. We each have our own spaces of specialization and we don't interfere in each other's spaces. And it's work wise been a very, very fruitful growth for me as well, because if I wouldn't have had the backing of My Choices Foundation, probably Invisible Scars also wouldn't have grown. And that is when we realize that this is a space, whether it's all gender based violence spaces are probably spaces where we require a whole lot of collaboration. And again today this is an example of the collaboration that we are bringing to you. In the course of our journey, we realize that counseling is the toughest thing to bring people to. So when you tell someone, come, go for counseling, the first question they say is, Are, I'm not crazy. I remember one of the people I was talking to, and we won't use the term victim here today, I would use the term survivor. So, one of the survivors I was talking to, she kept telling me, Oh, yes, I'm seeking counseling, counseling, counseling. And 3 months went on with that conversation, and every week or so, she would ping me with some problem. So I said, look, I'm not sure what kind of counseling you are seeking, but if you're actually
Mhm.
seeking counseling, it's not showing, right? So you should have got some help in terms of your thought process, or looking at things more objectively. And she told me, well, my counselor doesn't talk about all of these things to me. So I said, then who are you seeking counseling from? So she says, well, my auntie is a gynecologist, she's 80 years old, she has a lot of experience, and so she's counseling me. And it really boggled me, because that is not the kind of counseling I was referring to. It wasn't the kind of help. And while it is okay to seek advice, that is what we call advice. We it's okay to seek advice from people. Counseling is a professional requirement, and we will understand today why, what is counseling, why is it required, why do we insist on people seeking counseling. And one of the very important aspects we realized is that people, India has this culture of valuing the family, and if we want to move ahead in that culture where we value the family, the idea would be to build a stronger family and not build it and then realize that what you built was not right. So how do you understand what's right for you? How do you get into the right relationship? And how do you take a call on whether a relationship is working for you, or you need help, or you are working for a relationship, for example. You could also not be working for a relationship. And we will see all those aspects. I guess a little bit of context setting was that. Pearl, Kavita, would you like to add anything to the context, or should I start with your introductions?
You have beautifully narrated the reason why we are here.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. I am going to read out the introductions of our panelists today. So Pearl, I will start with Pearl. Pearl is the head of interventions with Operations Peacemaker of My Choices Foundation. My Choices Foundation, like I told you, is an NGO that we have been working collaboratively with. Pearl has been with My Choices Foundation since 2012 and became a mentoring counselor, which oversees the best practices of the entire counseling team. Pearl is deeply passionate about helping people help themselves. A chance meeting with Elka, who is the head of My Choices Foundation, led to Pearl's association with Operation Peacemaker. And you should definitely go on their website and look up Operation Peacemaker. It will help you understand a lot of what My Choices Foundation also does. Pearl is armed with a master's in psychology with a specialization in counseling. She works hard to ensure every client leaves the counseling centers with a lighter heart and hope in their steps. Serving domestic violence clients has been the most gratifying experience of her life. So, welcome on board, Pearl. I will read out Kavita's profile. Kavita, I have cut out a bit of your profile, and I will apologize for that later. But Kavita is a senior counselor at Operations Peacemaker, again part of My Choices Foundation. She has a postgraduate diploma in counseling psychology. Her commitment to serving people through professional counseling is driven by her personal experience with its life-changing potential. Counseling in the scenario of DV is very different and challenging, and she says that she is constantly a work in progress. I totally agree with you, Kavita. Kavita is an avid reader of fiction and self-help books related to psychotherapy. She is a lover of music, and she is a trained professional in classical Hindustani music. She trained for more than 15 years. She loves to travel and has been fortunate to see most parts of the world, as she is married to a sailor. She has two beautiful daughters pursuing successful careers of their own, and a 4-year-old pug. Very glad to know about Benji, who rules her life. So, welcome on board to both the panelists. I think we will be taking question answers. I see somebody's pinging on the question answer box. We will be taking question answers, but that will be after the session. So I will start with my first question, and Pearl, I'm going to address this to you. What is counseling? It's a very basic question, but what is counseling?
Yeah.
Do you want me to share the presentation?
With yeah, just one slide and 2 slides.
Correct.
Yes, welcome to all the participants to this program. And we will make our attempt to share our experiential knowledge with you. And to answer Ekta's question, what is counseling? A simpler definition of the UK's NHS website as talking therapy that involves a trained therapist listening to you and helping you find ways to deal with emotional issues. So, counseling is nothing, if I have to bring it down to understanding, it is just talking therapy. But counseling is rooted in the principle that individuals can help themselves provided that they receive the right kind of support. So, for example, what Ekta has just narrated as to well put is, for everyone, we have our own understanding of counseling. I mean, people say that we had elders in the past, so they are also counselors, and now that we are not going to them, that's the reason we are suffering. So these are the general opinions people do have. But what happens during counseling is the client and counselor set aside a time to explore difficulties, which may include the stressful or emotional feelings of the client. And in a counselor setting, we usually use the word counselor for the person who is taking the lead, and the client as a counselee or a client. And counseling helps the client to see things more clearly, possibly from a different viewpoint, like a third person. And this can enable the client to focus on feelings, experiences, or behavior with the whole goal of facilitating positive change. That's also one thing which Ekta just mentioned now, that if you're going to counseling, I don't see a change. So the whole point is to facilitate positive change in an environment of trust and confidentiality. And usually professional counselors will explain their policy on confidentiality, and sometimes we might have to disclose a client's information if we believe that there is a risk to life. And Ekta, honestly telling, for anyone, if you suggest the word counseling, they will be really fearful because we don't know the person whom we are going to talk to. And sharing something very personal and private information is not going to be easy. I mean, it's very uncomfortable, and we should perfectly understand or be okay with it. And we also do understand that it's absolutely okay for anyone to go through these emotions. Ekta.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, Pearl, thank you for sharing that, because that is something that I also did not know. So the definition that you told us of counseling, that it's just a way of listening to someone. Sorry, it's a talking therapy with a professional person listening to you, and you do it in an environment of trust and safety. And I'm guessing that you build that environment over a
Yes.
period of time. So what that leads me probably to the next question, Pearl, that if an environment of safety and trust is required, what is the profile of a counselor, and how does a
Yeah.
counselor explain these things?
Yeah, to simply say, the profile of a counselor is trained in counseling psychology, and a psychologist can also be a counselor. And psychologist is a psychology graduate or a postgraduate, specialized also in administering psychological tests, or she is actually qualified to conduct psychological assessments. And these assessments will help us indicate if there is a serious problem of mental health we needs to be addressed, and that can be taken to the psychiatrist, who is a medical doctor, and he or she is the only one who can prescribe medication. Counselor and psychologist do not prescribe medication. And for the kind information, counseling is still not a shock therapy. or going to a psychiatrist is also not a shock therapy anymore. And counselors and psychologists do conduct psychotherapies, namely, you must have read about it or heard about it, cognitive behavior therapy, rational emotive behavior therapy, transactional analysis, and emotion focused therapy, to name few. They help, they fall under the psychotherapy module. And these help the client to experience these help the client to become conscious of these experience which is they're going through from their previously and unaware of. So these are the things which through the counseling they're brought forth in the front and discussed. I also want to mention here, Ekta, that alternative approaches like telepathy, Reiki, NLP are not considered as a part of counseling psychology. They do help, but they're for other purposes, not fall in the purview of the counseling psychology.
Okay.
And no counselor suggests medicines categorically.
Okay, no counselor suggests. So, Pearl, just an add-on question to this is, what should one be careful of when they meet a counselor, especially if it's a case of domestic abuse or domestic violence? What are the things to keep in mind?
Yes, Ekta, I couldn't listen to the last part.
Okay, so my question was, what are the things to keep in mind with respect to hiring a counselor? Because you see a lot of counselors and everybody says, I counsel. So what are the things that a person needs to keep in mind? You've already told us that the difference between a counselor, what the difference between a counselor and other areas of practice are, and what are the things that one should look out for in a counselor?
Yeah. Actually, I will ask Kavita to share this second question because it concerns more with the regular counseling and the domestic abuse counseling. Kavita, over to you.
Yeah. Hi. I would like to bring the difference between relationship counseling and domestic abuse counseling, because there is a huge difference in counseling in the domestic abuse scenario. So I'll tell you a little in simple form. In relationship counseling, a couple come together to resolve their marital conflict, feeling the need to resolve it. They are not coming with an intention to end the relationship necessarily. In relationship counseling, a couple is aware of the possibility of resolving the conflict, and there is no harm. This is very important to know. There is no harm in resolving it. In relationship counseling, the relationship is the client, and they are encouraged to connect with each other, sometimes exposing their vulnerabilities to develop a sense of empathy between them, and thus resolving the conflict with a sense of understanding and acceptance. There is no precondition of danger in just relationship counseling. But when it comes to domestic abuse counseling, the client is educated first and foremost about what domestic abuse is. And most of the time, the survivor comes to a domestic abuse counselor to resolve the conflict or to end it without understanding that what she is going through is abuse. And in both these scenarios, the partner who is the abuser is coming unwillingly if he comes at all. In domestic abuse, the counseling is done with treating the situation of domestic abuse as a crisis. It's very important to note. Client comes with a precondition of harm being done to her already, and violence is evident covertly or overtly. Client feels helpless and sometimes hopeless, and hence she has to be handled very gently and coerced into realizing that she has options. She needs to think of her safety and what kind of SOS measures she needs to take. This counseling is very different.
Kavita, we can't hear you. So your voice is kind of breaking. So I am suggesting that probably if you can switch off your video, maybe you will get better voice, because I think we lost a bit of the your voice towards the end.
Yeah.
There's a bit of cracking.
Pardon? Can I
There's a bit of cracking in your voice.
Okay. Yeah.
So, can you switch off your video? Probably.
Yes, yes.
Let's see.
Yes.
So, probably say a line or something. We'll figure out if the voice is better.
Okay. So we were talking about crisis counseling being very different.
Right. Right.
About how one copes with obstacles that come in the way of relief from the abuse. Like in domestic abuse, the obstacle could come in the form of mindset, societal pressures, lack of...
Kavita, your voice is still not very clear. So we are unable to hear. Do you want to kind of rejoin? I don't know because your voice is not clear at all.
Okay, shall I rejoin?
Maybe that would be a good idea. Let me see what we can do. Probably should we switch over to another question with Pearl, and then you could just rejoin and I'll add you back.
Yeah, sure.
Huh?
Perfect.
Yeah. Sure. Hello, Kavita.
I would suggest if Kavita is using, so someone is saying that you can use headphones, Kavita.
Yes, actually, I was wanted to write too.
It may be okay if you use headphones.
Okay.
Probably the voice is cracking up because of that. So then you don't have to rejoin.
Cell phone, how? The same link?
Earphones, Kavita. If you could put on
Do you
your
have
earphones.
Not really. Can I just try read? Just 1 second.
So I see that a question has come in, but we won't take the questions right now. We will take the questions right at the end. Probably, Pearl, I'll switch over to the next question with you till Kavita is able to figure out the technology glitch. What I heard Kavita saying was that there is a difference between counseling that happens for domestic abuse survivors and those who are in a conflict. So I could clearly hear the conflict bit that when someone is who comes for relationship counseling is clearly coming there with a view to sort out their differences and make the relationship work. Whereas the domestic abuse counseling is very different because someone in a stressful situation is coming to seek counseling. I think this was where it kind of ended for me. So if there's anything you might want to add to it, it would be.
Yes, I would like to add one point here, Ekta. So in a relationship counseling, both the couple are interested in seeking counseling, and maybe not 100%, but at least they're sort of agreed upon. But in domestic violence counseling, domestic abuse counseling, need not be. Most of the time, the couple don't come together. Maybe just one person comes together, and the whole point is usually at a very crisis point. Things must have really gone bad, or they want to work it out. So that's the structure, and maybe the further questions can help you understand that the clarity between domestic violence counseling.
Correct. So, but what I did mota understand, and which is what we also tell people, is there is a difference between conflict and domestic abuse. Conflict typically means that there is some kind of hope that it will get sorted out because both people want it to be sorted out. However, when it is domestic abuse, there is a power imbalance in that relationship. And I think that's something which I keep telling a lot of people. So what is the right time? I mean, how do you know, okay, this is the right time and I should I should seek counseling?
Yeah. If you come to my slide on when fifth slide,
Okay.
if you could, when should you seek counseling? This is exactly where when someone sees red flags in their relationship, and this is very clearly shown through power and control wheel, which is a Duluth model, which is actually a research proven model. And these red flags, you see them in a consistent manner and sometimes in an increasing fashion. So when someone is verbally abused, belittled, ridiculed, publicly or in private, even in front of your children, when someone is portrayed as the cause of their spouse's problems and misery for every issue of their life, gently when someone is being isolated from their own people, disconnected from friends, from family, and this isolation doesn't happen just like a very cutthroat manner. Also, it is very gentle, like they stop eating food, stop responding if you go to meet some particular person or visit a particular party or particular family member. So you don't know why the food is still on the table. There's no communication at home, and later on you understand that going to a particular friend, meeting a particular person, doing a particular thing is causing that kind of a disturbance in the family. And suddenly or meeting anyone from your family, things are fine. So that's how the isolation happens. To keep the person happy, the spouse happy, will be their 24/7 job, Ekta.
Okay.
And when someone is earning and they do not have the freedom to spend the money, and here I mean to say not splurge, to buy those small gifts to their close friend or family member, or just have fun, just go for a movie. When someone is controlled and always live in the fear that they hope they are not disappointing their spouse, and to avoid making him angry is a constant worry. So they lose their own DNA in the process. You see, I mean, if you know the same people before, they're very bubbly, chirpy, they call regularly, they call somebody home. But you see that slowly they say, "Arey yaar, nahi aa sakte. Can you please understand? Nahi ho sakta." It's like, पहले जैसे होता क्या? I mean, now life has changed. Please understand. You guys go ahead. You have party. So they keep making these statements. And when somebody is forced into intimacy, even when they are not willing to be intimate, when someone is physically abused as a form of control by their partner. I don't know if you have watched this video. Yesterday, Elka also posted the breakthroughs video. If something doesn't work, I mean, we have this habit of hitting the radio, hitting our old television, धक्का दिए तो थोड़ा आगे चलता टाइप. So some people get into this habit of एक लगाए तो she'll be fine.
Okay.
And when someone's children are also used against them during fights, arguments, bribing the children when children are doing something wrong. Because, for example, child wants to sit in the middle of the table and eat, and and if the mother says, "No, this is not discipline. I think we need to eat around the table, and it's time for going to sleep, and this is not the time to watch TV. Arey yaar, bacche hi to hai. When will they enjoy?" So each time the child thinks, I mean, why is my mom behaving like a very rigid and like a Hitler? But look at my dad is so broad-minded and I mean, he thinks about us. And above all, I mean, when all these happen, and definitely only one thing doesn't happen. All these things don't happen at a time, but they happen at different intervals. But these are some red flags. And Ekta on her Facebook page also has several times identified these. And what happens specifically here, Ekta, is during with all these techniques which are portrayed in this power control will is you get to control the person from within.
Okay. Okay.
And so nothing is seen outside. It's everything. It's driven with this the whole idea, like you said, conflict is different, and this here the whole abuse, the red flag is the way using power the woman is controlled. And their own belief system is lost, and a new belief system is induced or injected into their system.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying
And
that.
I also want to tell one word here is, tell me.
So my question was that you say that the inner personality of the person changes. So from what they used to be at one point of time, over a period of time, you notice a subtle change in the way that they start to present themselves, and they start undergoing isolation.
Yes.
They don't like to meet too many people.
Yes.
They seem sad
Yes.
or irritated all the time. So a person who was once very cheerful, bubbly, happy-go-lucky, is now constantly worried or anxious or constantly stressed out. Uh,
Yes.
would that be an okay way to kind of put it?
Absolutely, Ekta. And you might be knowing that the several clients which came to you were in that situation.
Correct. So most of the times when someone comes to us, they are always almost at the nth degree, towards the end of that relationship. They have put up with something for as long as that they could. And it is mostly when they realize that there's no hope, or, I cannot change this person, is when they come to us to say that, I've tried everything. A lot of times we get requests that, can you not scold this person? Can you not tell this person to behave nicely with me? And we feel so incapable, because these are not things that we help people with. We don't go around scolding someone's spouse or telling someone's spouse, but these are people who've reached a certain degree of, they've just hit that point where they no longer want to put up a fight, and then they come and they say, we don't know what is happening to us. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Pearl. There was something that you were saying before I kind of intervened. You said there was a word you wanted to leave us with.
Yes. I want to use, this is a very unique word which which I want to really specifically tell the group is, sometimes among all of this domestic abuse, sometimes the woman still has a child. So most of the time people would say, hey, you're going through so much of domestic abuse, but you still had a child or you're pregnant again. That means the violence is not really so much or as exaggerated as you are trying to portray.
Correct.
But there is a term for that which is called make-up sex, Ekta, where sex is predominantly in our culture used like a balm, like a tool, um, like a thing to make up, which is exactly the opposite of the nature of a sexual relationship, which is actually when two hearts meet, only then two bodies meet, and that makes sense. So most of the time, to just cover up for that abuse, when people participate in sex, and definitely they will have a child. So this word is also, makeup sex is also part of the domestic abuse, a red flag, and which people should be actually noticing it. And Kavita, would you like to add something to my points?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
Kavita.
Kavita.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So this is definitely, these are the kind of tactics which are used, which are misread by the victims. As Pearl was saying, using terms like, this term of makeup sex was something which really was something that I learned when I was trained in domestic violence counseling. So this is something which is very, very typical in a lot of abusers, the tactics that they use. But uh, another indication that you need to get help is when you find yourself, you know, giving a lot of using a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms, like taking the blame constantly when something is going wrong. Just to think that a lot of women think that if I do this, he's going to not shout at me, and that's where the problem is going to be solved. But this doesn't happen. And then displacing your anger, like you can't do anything about your husband, so then you will immediately start taking out your anger on the children, and becoming violent outbursts. And another thing which is very important is that substance abuse is also, if you find yourself reaching to alcohol or drugs for temporarily, these are all very temporary ways of coping with what you're going through. So these are another indicator. And when you find yourself taking the blame constantly for every small conflict, or being convinced that you are the reason for him to abuse you, this is something which I have heard a lot of victims saying, that they almost blame themselves, because the person who's abusing is almost saying that you triggered this, otherwise I'm not like this.
Correct.
So this is the kind of space that living in a domestic violence environment, it gets you to that position that you're almost self-doubting yourself.
Correct. Always believing that it is you who's at fault, and kind of not understanding that this could be your abuser also. A lot of people, yes, I do completely agree with that, Kavita, because when people do reach out to us, they are usually in that state that I don't know what I have done wrong. I don't know, I've tried everything. In fact, it's very unfortunate. I was speaking to a young girl today afternoon itself, and one of the things she told me while having a conversation is, I've done everything I could in the relationship,
Exactly.
yet I'm not able to make it work.
Yeah.
So it was very sad to hear that. And I think, like you said,
Yeah, if I can interrupt there, just to
yes,
go back to to tell you what is the basic uh, uh, you know uh, the essence of domestic abuse counseling is to
yes,
clear the myths that exist around marriage and a marital life and a marital relationship. These are the myths which I hear, uh, sometimes openly, sometimes, very unsaid kind of way. If I can't fix my marriage, I'm a failure. Okay? Marriage is like a trophy which decides my ability of achievement and success.
right,
How can this happen to me when I'm such a smart person? घर की बात घर में रहना चाहिए kind of thinking.
right,
Abuse is not घर की बात. It is a crime. And you are a victim of it. It is this kind of thinking that strengthens the resolve of an abuser, as he knows the victim will not dare speak out about it, as she is ashamed and afraid to do so. Note here very carefully, the abusers are never ashamed. And another
I think,
reason, and
yes,
another reason which I have seen, being used is staying in the abusive atmosphere for the sake of the kids. That
yes,
is a huge myth. There's nothing further from the truth in this matter. Children growing up in an abusive environment is teaching them the lessons for life that abuse is normal. I leave you to decide how harmful this can be to a child. Most children accept abuse as a form of love, part and parcel of love. And then it's history repeating itself.
yes, yes. So thank you for highlighting this, Kavita. I totally agree with the point that you just made right here. Is children who are being raised in abusive environments are so conditioned to either understand that abuse is the way that life has to be lived, or I can become an abuser because probably that's my coping mechanism, or that's the way I've seen people being treated, so I just think it's normal. That's how you have to treat other people, and I don't think that there's any respect required.
Exactly.
So yes, perfect, and thank you for bringing that up, which brings me back to the original question, was what is the difference between relationship counseling? I think we kind of lost you in between, so I'm going back to that question again.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between domestic violence counseling and relationship counseling?
Yeah, so as I told you, in relationship counseling, the couple are kind of cooperative, and the end goal is to make the relationship work. And the counselor also looks at the relationship as the client and not the clients. So they are both equally responsible to work towards this, and they've taken that responsibility, and there is no precondition of danger, threat to life, and things like that in relationship counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the whole scenario is very different in domestic abuse counseling, which, as I was mentioning to you, it's a crisis counseling. And in crisis counseling, it is different, as it is about how one copes with obstacles that come in the way of relief from the abuse. Like in the case of domestic abuse, the obstacle can come in the form of mindset, societal pressures, lack of financial support. And the biggest obstacle is when a client rationalizes the abuse meted out to her. Client being made aware of a safety plan goes hand in hand with domestic abuse counseling. A safety plan is something that a counselor will definitely have in the first session itself. It is imperative. It is very, very important. It's almost synonymous with DA counseling. And in domestic abuse, resolving may not be the best option for the client as much as rescuing may be the need of the hour.
Correct. So there is a major difference between resolve and rescue. And one of the defining points for both of these different types of counselings is, one, there is a requirement, and there can be a resolution. In the second, the rescue is more important, and we should not be focusing too much on trying to resolve, and that is okay to do so.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because compromising is not something that we use very easily in domestic abuse. So, they have to be, and the need is in domestic abuse, it could be that of a shelter. So, shelter home facility could be provided, and the legal advice would be in the form of making the client familiar with the laws pertaining to domestic abuse, so they can be aware, for example, 498A, DVC, and these kind of provision, getting them aware that there is a law in place. I am so surprised sometimes that the DV Act, nobody knows too much about it. It's available online.
Right.
It's available online, and nobody knows about it. So sometimes just making the client who comes to us just read it makes them understand what all they have normalizing till now, what all they have been doing.
True. Very true. Thank you, Kavita, for that perspective. It absolutely clarified a whole lot of questions. So one of the questions I think at the cost of repeating myself, I'm going to ask again. So there are counselors 9 by the dozen everywhere, right? How do you know who's the right person to go to? What are the things you should look out for? I know that this question wasn't part of our original plan, but what are the things you should look out for in a counselor? So when I talk to a counselor, how do I know this is the right person? Because everyone won't have access to My Choices Foundation. But if we do have to evaluate a counselor, what are the things we should look at, and what are the questions we should ask a counselor to determine if that person is right to go ahead with?
Yeah, Kavita, you go ahead.
Yeah. Firstly, we need to understand what were the expectations from domestic abuse counseling by the client.
Right.
Often people mistake counseling with some kind of a panchayat kind of a thing, or even, as you said, usko dant denge, we'll reprimand them like how the cops would do it. And these kind of things, definitely we do not do in,
Right.
that will not, this kind of an attitude will not work at all for us, for a counselor, for a client who is dealing with domestic abuse.
Correct.
And domestic violence counseling is a specialization, and not every one counselor can help a domestic violence survivor effectively.
Right.
they need to have an awareness of DV dynamics, domestic abuse dynamics, legal provisions, safe home networks, and most importantly, a scientific domestic violence counseling model. For example, we use a model developed by researchers at Johns Hopkins University, USA. And another thing which comes in the way of a proper counseling to be done in this scenario is some counselors have preconceived notions about what is right and wrong in a marital related relationship, depending upon their own personal views on gender, sex, and consent. This is not helpful in a domestic abuse situation. The failure to look at domestic abuse as an abuse by the counselor will most likely leave the client completely confused and misunderstood and even more helpless than when she came to the counselor for help.
Correct.
Hence, expertise in this area is very important. And the first thing that I kind of tell a client is, if you want to use the old knowledge to resolve the old problem and get a new solution, it is not possible.
Yes.
So a good domestic abuse counselor will educate the couple on healthy practices which empower them in making the relationship a healthy one. Even if the spouse is not willing to come, the client should continue coming for the sessions.
Right. That is a mistake so many people make. They stop going for sessions, or if their spouse refuses to go for sessions, they just feel that, okay, he's not willing to go, then why the hell should I go? There's nothing for us to resolve. And like we already discussed, it is not about resolution, it is about rescuing. And how do we rescue a person from a particular situation? Correct.
And children counseling also is advised in a lot of cases if their children could be taught, because family therapy is the need of the hour to ensure that the wrong lessons are not taken from living in a domestic abuse environment.
Correct.
Another thing which is very important for clients to know is that expecting change to happen in a couple of sessions is very unrealistic.
Right.
This is because mindsets are developed and nurtured over several years. Okay, so expecting the counselor to make swift changes in just a couple of sessions is almost impossible.
Correct.
So a preparedness to diligently come for counseling for at least about 10 sessions.
Correct.
And do the things which are given by the counselor in the form of homework. And coming back and giving an honest feedback about what every session is making them feel. Because sometimes a lot of opening up is done. A lot of, like, for example, a myth that you took for reality. It's not easy to just accept and say that, okay, just because the counselor is telling me it's a myth, but it was a reality for me for so many years. It's very difficult. So you must convey this to the counselor, and the counselor's approach will become different.
Correct.
And a very good counselor will actually even refer to another counselor if the connect is being unable to make. That is also part of counseling.
So typically,
client need getting help is priority.
Correct. So, Kavita, what you mean to say is, when we do go to evaluate a counselor, suppose, we are looking at someone and, we want to evaluate that person as to whether we should go to that person, we should check out for a few things, such as, whether they understand the DV dynamics. So, it's okay to have a conversation with your counselor for the first time to understand if you are hiring someone, or, a lot of counselors charge, a lot of money. And I have seen people have approached me and said, why don't you do a tie-up with us? We charge 4,000 rupees a session, 5,000 rupees a session. And I have actually, gone back to those people saying that, look, I'm not interested in the money. I want the person who comes to you to benefit out of the counseling. And, if you're charging 4,000, 5,000 rupees a session, it is important that you sit and have a conversation with the person who's going to come to you. And I think awareness on the part of people is or survivors is very necessary, because what are the right questions to ask, whether or not this person is going to be able to help me or not. I think that call you need to be able to take and make a little early on. Um, so I probably will, because we are, of course, I think almost close to five now. Barely
Yes.
three questions ahead, but just two questions more. And Pearl and Kavita, this is both to you, so either one of you can answer this. Is who can you give us some sort of maybe an idea of how did people benefit when they reached out to you? So maybe any examples of relationships that in which DV counseling helped, or it didn't help, yet it was beneficial to the person who came. So any examples of that? I
Yeah.
will.
Well, you can take it forward.
Sure, Ekta. Yeah. Yeah. Ekta, most of the women who came to us, actually, we would love to give examples after examples, but we sort of concised into a material
Correct.
that women, most of the women who came to us were at a point of committing suicide because they found themselves trapped in very tricky situations.
Hmm.
And the counseling actually gave them power back. Actually, I remember one client, she said, there's no point, I mean, there is no way that my life can be rescued. Actually, I don't even want to tell my name. My story is written in a blog. If you are interested, please go to the blog and read it up. And you will not be, I mean, you will be surprised, Ekta and the group, to know that we just crawled in this case. I mean, very slowly. We just moved so slowly and reached this client. And after the number of sessions, the client was able to come out of that messy situation. She was able to report to the police what happened and take help of her family. So it is just putting power back to them. Whoever felt helpless and believed that in this lifetime, many of them who write to us, they say that in this lifetime nobody can solve my problem. And the clients who came to us, the women who were able to take some short time of shelter at our place in our Lotus Safe Home. There is a concept of short stay home for women for us. It's called Lotus Home. And simultaneously staying in that home, they underwent counseling as an individual and also note as a couple.
Hmm.
And their relationship was restored. And
Just
some took time just to recover in that safe home, only from constant abuse, and some were able to make an informed decision and also part ways.
correct.
And most of these clients, after the counseling sessions, were able to handle. You can use my PowerPoint slide number 8 if you
Hmm.
can.
Yes,
They were
yes.
able to handle a lot of abusive triggers. I mean, next time an abusive trigger happens, they know how to handle it now. They know how to manage their partner's abuse, what works, what does not work. Now, many of them, people who have been working in the MNC and the pharma company, even they hesitated to seek help of police. I mean, even police is dur ki baat. They said people have not shared it to their own parents for 10 years, Ekta.
Hmm. They've been
So
going
during
through
these
abuse.
counseling sessions, abuse, their
Right.
parents came to know after 10 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we were able to tell that slide number 8,
Slide number 8 is
the triggers of abusive incidents. So accessing,
this is it.
they are aware of domestic violence, resources now, where to go, where to seek help. The
Correct.
sessions helped rebuild their self identity. As I said, their whole DNA is
Correct.
changed,
Correct.
and they sought legal sanctions. They are able to go to the police, even file a case and follow it up regularly also, not chumma file a case and leave it. They were able to follow it up with our caseworkers.
Uh, Pearl, are you there? Pearl, Pearl, I'm unmuting you. I
Yeah,
think you
yeah.
got muted.
Okay.
Sorry, I think we heard till caseworkers.
Okay, okay. Yeah, they lot of clients were able to who petrified. हम कभी पुलिस की सीढ़ियां तक नहीं चले, and they would really sweat. I mean, then we were able to tell, see, the impression you have about police. The whole point is they want to seek a redressal mechanism to end the abuse. They didn't want to end the relationship there.
Correct.
So we are only supporting them through this process. So ये गलत नहीं है. So we were able to instill this new belief system in them. Most of them highly educated, gold medalists, they lost confidence in themselves even to apply for a receptionist post.
Right.
So through these sessions, people gathered that their courage, they built their new self-esteem, were able to apply for jobs, they were able to understand where their attachment issues are. They learned how to regulate their emotions well. So all these areas the women were able to be helped. That's why I didn't take one. But also, if I have to tell couples, men also sought help along with their spouses, and the couples learned to choose respect and equality over power and control.
Power and control, correct.
That was a very beautiful thing to see. So when spouses have taken a U-turn and started adapting this, couples learned skills to develop healthy relationship. Men decided to seek help for substance abuse when they realized that they chose unhealthy coping mechanisms. The whole point here also is, Aita, that the society also had taught very wrong coping mechanism. खुशी है तो पीना, गम है तो पीना, खुशी है तो लड़ना, गम है तो लड़ना. It's like for everything we have some standards,
some formula, some recipe.
Exactly. And some men also, during the sessions, we understood that they wanted the women to come closer to them, but they chose very unhealthy communication, which only pushed the woman away from him. Rather, exactly when we said, do you want her, simply said, cut the crap, come to the point, do you want her to come close to you? Yes. Then are there better ways to tell? They said yes. So why don't you adapt that? So these clients actually learned conflict regulation skills, emotion regulation skills, and the beauty is nobody changed overnight, as Kavita said.
True.
Nobody changed overnight. Yes. And no woman reached this stage, just like a jump. Everybody went through a different, their own stages. That's why I put the graph there. Everybody started small. First they didn't even know that they were going through abuse. So using our peacemaker, the community trained women, when the conversations happen, like your posts, people, when they read, okay, now there's like, okay, this is abuse. So what I'm going through is abuse. Now they move to a second step. Okay, they are still committed to this relationship. They want this relationship, but they now want, they are contemplating change. So another stage is the person actively prepares to resolve the problem and may gather some information like, okay, ऐसे हुआ तो मैं क्या करना, where do I go, will 181 respond, really the minute I call FIR तो नहीं होगा ना. So whatever resources, okay, short stay home भी है क्या, तो वहां पे तो गलत लोग जाते हैं, वहां गए तो और भी मेरा प्रॉब्लम बढ़ता. So people have this, but now during all this, slowly you see that steady growth and they make a progress. And fourth is the change itself, which includes a number of associated behaviors and a great commitment of time and energy to work this, whether they have to be together or even they have to leave. So the whole process is, even if the woman wants to be in this relationship or if she has to leave this relationship, whichever ways, preserving the relationship, preservation of self, we prepare her. So each client who has come through us, we very, Kavita and me, very specifically kept away from examples, because none of, I mean, this is one fear all of us have is, I'm telling you, I worked in a school setting for counseling, Ekta. I did not receive one counseling case also for one full year, because the students would observe how am I going to maintain confidentiality of their cases. So the women who, some of them might be attending our program also, so they might think like my life is used as an example, which some of them would not prefer. So that's why we didn't give you those scenarios.
Specific
But
example.
this is exactly why, or what we wanted to share, that how we help the people. Yes.
Correct.
And if somebody wants to take a step but they didn't take step, people have come back to us after 2 years, 3 years also. So not a single session of their counseling goes waste.
Correct. Correct. So thank you, Pearl. Thank you for summing it up so beautifully. You know, this is very, very helpful for those who are still. So there is this whole section of people who are kind of open to the idea of counseling, but they don't know what to expect when they get there. And I think this kind of summarizes the whole process of counseling very beautifully. And which brings us, of course, to the next question. I will just stop the screen sharing for a second so I can unmute Kavita's audio, which I muted. So Kavita, this question is to you. This question I have faced, that I went with my spouse for a couple of counseling sessions, but it didn't work for us. Why? It didn't help us in any way. So what was the reason? So Kavita, would you like to take that answer, that question?
Yeah, as I was saying, like, what were you expecting from the counselor? That is something that you need to first understand. Like, what is a counselor going to do? It's largely to do with understanding what is the core issue between the couple first, and secondly, if there are any mindsets, belief systems which have to be kind of brought forward for the couple as individuals, and psychoeducate them to understand that what is helping them, what is not helping them, and their coping mechanisms to identify for them, and then make them eventually decide how they would like to go forward. This is a very important part of counseling, that we do not take decisions for the client,
Right.
for the couple. The part of the counselor is psycho-educate the couple, the clients as individuals and as a couple, and put the power of decision making back into their hands. So this
counseling is not about sorting out someone's issues. It's about giving you the power to sort out your own issues in the manner you see fit.
Yeah, understanding what, like almost playing all the cards on the table in front of you, and you pick and choose what works for you.
Correct.
The walk is yours.
Correct.
So that is very important. When you start saying that this is good for you, this is not good for you, then that's not counseling. If you adjust like
becomes
this,
advice.
If you adjust like this, he will be like this. If he does, this is all Mahila Mandal type of approach towards counseling.
Counseling, correct.
So, that's not counseling at all. You're not empowering. End of the day, you're empowering the client, the individual, and the couple. So that
yes.
Tomorrow they will be able to use the same method to resolve their issues for the time coming, in the long run.
Correct. Yes.
It's the larger picture.
Is the larger picture, correct. So Kavita, that was wonderful, because I did get a case where someone had been to some, I would not like to call it Mahila Mandal counseling, but a counselor who obviously did not know what she was talking about, and she told that lady and that you should try not to anger your spouse too much, and you should kind of keep your tone low when you talk to him, and a whole series of instructions she had given, and it was devastating to see, and that sometimes can be very damaging also to a person. Would that be right to say that if you're not with the right counselor, it could actually end up causing you more damage?
Yes, exactly. Because you're going to be even more immersed in self-doubt and questioning the innate, kind of self. Maybe your inner self is saying that this is wrong,
Huh.
and somebody is telling you that it's okay. It's as damaging as that. You're instinctively you are wanting to go into a protective mode,
And you're
and
shutting
somebody is
down your voice.
yeah, and it's like shutting down your voice and not even acknowledging it.
Correct, correct.
Empathy is one of the most important things that we do in counseling.
Right,
But at the same time, please understand it's not goody goody talk all the time.
right. There
You
will be
need
some
to,
harsh moments as well.
yes,
Yes,
but
yes.
we are there to support you through those harsh moments. You're not left alone.
Hmm.
Please be reassured about that because we understand. But without doing that, a little bit of confrontation with,
Hmm.
some coping mechanisms, your purpose is it won't be, the counseling process won't be effective. What do you say, Pearl?
Correct.
Yes, yes. And actually, to add the last point to Kavita, what Kavita just said is, if we go to such people, what happens is basically you take the power away from the client and put it back into the abuser's lap.
Hands of the abuser.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
True, true. Those are very, very important points to keep in mind. And thank you, Pearl and Kavita. We are not going to end. We are not going to let you go. As we had estimated, we have these 15-20 minutes extra. We have some questions from our audience members. The first question I see is a little complicated, but I will anyway read it out. So whichever one of you wants to take this. Um, how to control emotional involvement in counseling, especially when the counselor is bipolar. It is sometimes tough. What are the tips? So this is about the counselor. If the counselor is bipolar, how does that counselor control emotional involvement? Pearl, Kavita, over to you. Do you think that's a question that is relevant to our session?
Not really. Like,
But would
Yeah,
you still
not
like to take
relevant,
a
but
stab at it?
yeah, maybe one point I can add is they need to have their regular counseling sessions.
Correct. The counselor themselves.
Am I audible, Ekta?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
you're audible.
yes, because that's a very good a way that whether we are bipolar or non-bipolar, just being in this field can take us through these experiences. But having a personal therapy sessions, because every doctor has their own doctor, that works.
Correct, correct.
That will
So
help
I
the
think
emotion regulation skills.
correct, correct. So I guess whether you're bipolar or you're not bipolar, that is not the main question here. The question is that you need to keep seeking wellness for yourself as a counselor, because anyway, I think counseling involves a whole lot of emotional, and I remember Pearl, you also took a break in between for some time, and I think
Yes,
it is a very emotional and
yes,
a very
Ekta.
tedious journey, and for you to keep your sanity and keep yourself intact, I think whether you have bipolar disorder, you don't have, it's important to regulate your own emotions,
Very
whoever
true.
you are.
yes,
Very
yes.
true.
It's called transference and counter transference in psychology jargon, but
Okay.
it happens. It does happen. But
Right,
if the counselor is and the counselee can be honest about it, about this
right,
will not go to damage the counseling session.
Very
correct,
true.
Okay, and
right.
I'm honest enough to say that as a counselor, I do have my counselor too.
True, and which is necessary. I think all of us who have these very high stress, so-called work to do, all of us need to keep our sanity in place, and everyone uses should have their own counselor or someone they trust and someone that they seek help
Especially in the line of work that we do,
that we are.
we need to understand, how much we can do. So this is all part of, a healthy counseling process.
Correct. Correct.
What do
Correct.
you say, Pearl? I mean,
So I guess
Yes,
that
yes,
answers
Kavita.
your question, Simonica. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come with a second question with a history of domestic abuse and a history of depression in the family. How do I make out whether I just need counseling or I need to see a psychiatrist? I think this is an easy one, right? Pearl,
Yeah.
Kavita?
Yeah, as we discussed during the last hour, maybe first see a counselor definitely, and if the counselor suggests some assessments, only then go for an assessment, and only if there is a need, go to a psychiatrist. Don't have to categorically take that I psychiatrist. I mean a little larger step.
Correct. So it's a step by step thing. You first see your
Yes,
counselor,
yes,
and if your counselor is good and she's doing a good job with you, she will automatically suggest for you to see a psychiatrist if she feels that there is a requirement for it.
absolutely.
Correct. Correct. So I think the question after this is physical violence is clearly identifiable. However, emotional abuse is often missed to be understood. How do I know it's time? I think this was already discussed. How do you know it's time to seek counseling? I think this was already a question that we had discussed. But just to reiterate that, when you start using unhealthy coping mechanisms in a relationship, I think it's time for you to see a counselor. For as far as emotional abuse is concerned, and I'm taking this question on, is that there is a whole lot of reading material. See, we are in a very connected age, and it is important that when you're going to buy, when you're going to do shopping, you actually Google what are the best sites to go, where is the most discount, and things like that. So why don't you do the same thing with emotional abuse? If at any point someone feels, I think we are all mature enough and we understand that there is something which is not right, and we can always look up the symptoms of what is not right or reach out to someone who can help you. I think that's exactly the reason groups like us, Invisible Scars, exist. Is we keep sharing a whole lot of information. Read information which is available. You will get to know if you're in an abusive situation or not. You can also go to our Invisible Scars website. We have a checklist there. The checklist says that if you are saying yes to 3 or more, but we say if you're saying yes to 5 or more, then probably you are in an abusive situation, Paul. And if you remember, this was a checklist that we had put together.
Yes, yes,
When
yes.
yes, um,
And My Choices also
yeah,
has one. Are you in a healthy
healthy
relationship on the
relationship.
website? And
Yes.
that's also it's a very good checklist
Perfect.
to see through.
So
I
Pearl, if you could
recommend.
share the link, it would be great. We could probably share the link with everyone who's attending.
Sure, sure,
So
Rekha.
you can
Sure,
make
Rekha.
out. I think the best way to handle, if you're not feeling good about a certain thing, the best way these days to handle is educate yourself. So
Yeah,
when you start by educating yourself, it gives you a sense of what you are facing, and then you can always deal with it in a better manner.
yes.
Then one of the questions that we have is, in the context of the rescue and resolve concept, what about those DV survivors who want a restoration of the relationship instead of wanting to come out for it? And then there's a bracket saying for whatever reasons. So it looks like this person doesn't believe that the reasons that the victim should go back or the survivor should go back are right. But the question is, in the context of rescue and resolve concept, what about those DV survivors who want a restoration of the relationship instead of wanting to come out for it?
Keep the psychoeducation going is the need of the hour, because irrespective of what the client is willing or not willing to do, that is not our agenda.
Hmm.
Our agenda, our work as a counselor is to psycho-educate them about healthy and unhealthy relationships, and it is for them to take a call and give a realistic picture to them.
Correct.
What do you say,
and
Paul?
yeah, I want to add to Kavita. If if they would like to go back, fair enough. I mean, whatever reasons they have. But along with psychoeducation, if they see any behavior modification, only then they should give themselves permission to go. So they should really fight tooth and nail to see that behavior modification happens in small little ways at least. So otherwise, it is like they will they'll really blame themselves very badly. The next time they get into abuse, they said, no, nobody did this. It is me who did this to myself.
Because
so मैं मरना and मेरे को ये, I mean, I deserve this. They go off into that spin.
Correct. So from the fire to the frying pan situation.
So should encourage that you can go, but behavior modification is the
like if the counselor tells the abuser that the anger management is the issue, the partner should, the victim, the survivor should ensure that the treatment is taken very seriously by the abuser.
Correct.
You can't minimalize it. You can't rationalize with it and just say that acha wo nahi kar raha hai to it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's about your safety.
So you should not compromise on your safety and say it's okay if he's not doing it properly, and then get back into the same situation that you started off from.
Yes.
Correct. So the next question is very interesting. This is a question we face very, very regularly. And Pearl, you will smile when you hear the question. How do I convince the abuser if I clearly see he needs counseling for himself? Or is it not advisable that I persuade such an abuser?
In fact, we see it. We see he needs counseling, or if it's not advisable that I persuade such an abuser. See, if you have to really convince him, that will be a task in itself. But along with, if you are seeing the counselor, just like as Kavita said, even if he didn't come, but if you are coming, you will learn these assertiveness skills and develop, how to really encourage someone to come for counseling. At least you will know the techniques. But even after he denies, if he denies, maybe in that heat of the moment, and it is a way to call Ekta. It's like, tumko counseling chahiye, tum pehle jao. If somebody does like this, nobody goes.
Correct.
So all these things can be helped by the counselor. So then the way they put it across to him will be different.
So what would be the right way to say it, Pearl? So if you have to actually tell someone who's an abuser to come for counseling with you, what is the right way to actually tell them? What do you think?
See, I think one of the points could be like, why don't we seek a third person's help? I mean, why don't we talk to a third person? Maybe we are reading too much into the thing, or maybe you think that I am wrong and I think that you are wrong. Why don't we both go? So that's the reason we at My Choices have always been very respectful with any person who comes in. It's because every woman definitely wants her husband to be respected, and that's the way to go it. So the way we do it is very important. And this kind of let's both go and sort it out, and let's learn some healthy relationship skills. So some statements can be very generic and very positive.
Like also saying very honestly, I'm not asking to fake it, but if she, as a with the counseling experience, she understood certain aspects of his behavior in a different manner. So she says that I got the space to vent out and to say my piece. Why don't you use the purpose? Because I'm sure you also have a lot of issues to talk about. So would you not want a third person who is not, the most important thing is here, we are not related to the client in any way.
Correct. Non-judgmental.
It's a totally non-judgmental professional relationship. So maybe it would help, because this is what the help I got. So being honest about how it helped you could motivate the partner to do so too.
True.
You know,
True.
instead of making like how, you know, pointing a finger and saying ki after a heated argument or a fight,
Correct.
saying you go for counseling, which will not
Correct.
work.
So don't
Yeah.
patronize and involve that person by saying that this worked for me. I think it could also help you. So don't patronize the person would be one of the things,
Yes.
and
Yes.
approach it a little differently.
Yeah.
Uh,
One point, Ekta, here is most of the time, um, this is the cycle of violence. Actually, this is even full one-day training program. You have fixed it in 1 hour. So usually the people, women would try to seek counseling at the thick of that fire experience, and after 2 3 days, or I mean, there's some incident where it calmed down. They say, "Ab kuch nahi hai. Now I'll come next time when things are bad."
when things are bad. Correct, correct, correct,
So
correct.
I want to, through this platform, I want to tell that it is actually not in the thick of that fire that we can do anything, but if, even before that. For example, I want to tell most of the
Hmm.
people, the whole world was talking about how during the COVID-19 domestic violence has gone up. But astonishingly, Ekta, from my choices, what we observed is all the people, actually, I will not use the word all, but most of the clients who approached my choices were safe.
Huh.
And when we made about 1,000 calls in from 1st April to 15th May. All the counselors made about 1,000 calls, and most of them, I will not say all, but most of them, they at least knew how to keep themselves safe, how to handle those triggers of abusive incidents, how to emotionally
Hmm.
keep themselves stable. So,
Hmm.
so all this happened because in the thick of this moment, now this COVID-19 moment, or when you're in the thick of a thing,
Correct.
hardly, and the always the funda is when your emotion is high, your rational goes low. You
True.
really can't make a decision at that point. So
Correct.
when things are better, that's when your emotion is a little bit in control, and some discussions can really benefit,
Correct.
help the
Very,
counseling
very,
sessions.
actually, very, very valid point, Pearl. Thank you so much for bringing that up. So I think the three takeaways for me is that don't patronize a person. Try and convince that person by telling them how you benefited out of it. So
Yes.
do like a collaborative kind of do a more collaborative gesture, and don't wait for an incident to happen when you come for
Exactly.
help. When you are in a better mental state and you're in a better frame of mind is the time to actually seek help.
Yes.
And one very important point which I have personally experienced is the client should never quote the counselor's words as a way of getting back at, you know,
Yes.
the partner who's
Yes.
abusive.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Right.
that will totally ensure that that guy is not going to come for counseling at all.
And not only gown, her chances are also doomed.
Yes,
If
exactly.
she quotes the counselor. So can you give an example, Kavita, of when you say don't quote a counselor? So somebody would have said something, maybe a dialogue or something. What is the general kind of quote that people say?
Actually, just recently we had
Hmm.
an experience like that, and you know,
Right.
I mean, it was quite scary for us for a while because it was over the phone, online,
Right.
and you know, I psychoeducated the client completely and told her about DV and
Hmm.
all these things, and then suddenly she pops up within the next this thing, and I say, I've told my husband all these things, and that, you know, and I was like freaking
And
out.
you talk to him, ma'am.
And
Uh,
can you talk to him, ma'am? And I'm
so,
like, totally, totally. I said, I will not be able to help you until you both calm down.
uh,
And then surprisingly, when I explained to her again through an email, because she refused to call me. So
uh,
again through an email, I explained to her why her impulsiveness could completely stop the process in its nascent stage itself.
uh, uh,
Her intention to approach is beautiful. But if she
correct.
wants it to continue, she has to be very, very cooperative with what I'm expecting her to do with this information.
Correct. So don't go against the counselor, and please don't go and quote things
Yeah,
to your
yeah.
spouse.
Which without the spouse not coming to the counseling session, and this
Uh,
the whole purpose of it is gone. You know, so
Repeat it. Correct.
these are the challenges of, by the way, online counseling and telephone counseling.
But I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
we will have to just kind of work harder to specialize these.
Of
But
course.
we have a couple of three more questions, and I'll quickly wind this up because I think we are running way ahead of
Yeah, yeah.
time. So the question is, if the abused is not ready to seek help, what do you do?
Keep giving her. Pearl, would you like to answer? Keep
No,
giving.
no, go ahead,
Go
Kavita.
ahead, Kavita.
Yeah. See, seeking help, like it personally for me, I worked on a client via phone and messages for 7 months,
Okay.
and she came to a face-to-face counseling
Hmm.
after that, and today she is free of abuse, pursuing all the legal procedures.
Correct, correct. So I think one of the ways also, Kavita, I will take up this answer is what Pearl said in the last session, or I think you said it, I'm not sure, that if someone is not willing to seek help, tell them how you benefited, make yourself as an example. And one of the things that I very clearly want to point out is don't put conditions on helping anybody. If you don't go and do this, I will stop talking to you. I won't be your friend. I won't meet you if you don't go and seek help. These are conditions you place on people getting help, and I guess people become more adamant on not getting help even if
Absolutely.
they're open to. So it's more collaborative. Say, I understand what you're going through, and I know I can probably figure out what are the emotions you are feeling, and this is how counseling helped me. Do you think you would like to? So when there is that example setting, when you put yourself up there, person then identifies more with you and more likely to open up to seeking help.
Okay, a friend unable to, kind of convince her, a person who's being abused to go for help. Sorry, I misunderstood that question. But definitely it would be, as Ekta, as you said, guide them to just have a chat,
Hmm.
just have a talk, just understand. I mean, the choice is always yours whether you want to continue or no. That's again another area where a specialized domestic abuse counselor will not miss an opportunity.
Correct.
Because as my mentor counselor is sitting there, right there, she always tells us maybe that's the only chance you'll get. So
Right.
make the most of it.
Make the
So
most of it.
that is something that I will never forget.
Correct.
And so guiding them to a counselor who is a domestic violence abuse counselor will itself make that process easy by, having a talk maybe herself first. A lot of
Correct.
friends talk to me first.
Correct.
And then learn ways of how to convince the client. Like this client which I was talking about, her brother was in touch with me for a long time.
And then finally after
And
7
then
months.
convinced her to come on. So I taught him the process, like, how to talk to her to convince. So even if you reach out on behalf of your friend, we could guide you. We could help you through that.
Perfect. That's true. That's true. So I think we will take the next question and quickly now wind up the last two questions. So we sometimes can't realize that we are undergoing domestic violence as all people around us say it is natural and normal. As we have gone through it since he is a man, women should go down a little or step back will not break the relationship. Oh God, which of you wants to take this answer? I
Ekta
have
will
very,
answer
very
this.
strong. So thank you for the question. Yes, it is true that the most number of times people will try and normalize the abuse by telling you, oh, it's okay, you must compromise, you must adjust. And I think that is a problem. But if you are not feeling good about a relationship, and this is the mild me answering you this question for you, but if you don't feel good about a relationship, do educate yourself. I think there is no harm in trying to educate yourself. If you are not feeling good about a relationship and someone is coming and normalizing it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So please give yourself the benefit of doubt. If you are not feeling good about a relationship, then there's something definitely wrong, and there is no harm for you to go out, discuss, talk to people, talk to your friends, open up. Like I always say, silence is the abuser's biggest weapon. Talk. When you talk to people, you will understand, oh, is this normal, should I be facing this? And this is conditioning. So when they tell you, oh, women should step back a little bit, it's conditioning. Some older women, they are not responsible for that kind of conditioning, because that's how they've been raised, so they don't know better. But if you're someone who's younger, you can definitely fight that conditioning and change it. So it doesn't matter what people tell you. I think in India, one of the biggest diseases we suffer from is log kya kahenge disease, and that's
Yes.
a very terrible disease to suffer from. It doesn't matter what people tell you. If you are convinced that there's something not right in your relationship, please take corrective action for yourself. Take steps that will help you understand what you're going through, and then start to work upon yourself. My very simple answer to you will be that. And with that, I will come to the last question of the day. And we have overshot time like it's nobody's business. One of my friends went into depression and started drinking alcohol because of the disrespect she faced as a domestic abuse survivor, beaten too. It is hard sometimes to bring her to counseling too. How can I support her? So I think this is just an extension of the last question, but you might want to add a point here and tell Sai Monica how to bring her friend. How can she support her?
Go ahead, Kavita.
Yeah, it's clearly, as I was mentioning, it's one of the unhealthy coping mechanisms. And the problem on hand is the alcoholism. So that would have to, first be handled. So if that can be explained to her, even by the friend, or even the counselor can help in this area. Because just for some, you won't believe it, Ekta, if they just hear a domestic violence counselor, just actually understanding them in the true sense of the word. Sometimes I've just heard a client telling me, I never thought you would accept what I'm telling you. That amount of being non-judgmental and having a clear view, a clear understanding, and not having any kind of gender bias and, these kind of skewed kind of thinking enables this client to really maybe motivate them to, use the counseling process along with whatever else is required for her alcohol problem. So this could go hand in hand.
And just to add, Kavita, you're done?
Yes.
Yeah. Just to add to Kavita's point, I think even if the friend, just like Kavita said earlier, if the friend starts reaching out to a counselor as to become like a mini counselor, mediator for her friend, that would be a great resource. Ekta, you're muted.
I just thought I was making too much noise with the tea drinking.
Okay. And one more thing is, a lot of psychoeducation material can be shared, like through videos, something to build her. So everything need not end up in counseling at the first go. So all these things will be like a build up, and like art therapy, whatever works for her in her way. And even this friend should not think that I'm not a good, best person, somebody else will be the best. No, she can be that intermediary person who can be trained to reach her friend, if not anybody else.
Correct. So I think very, very relevant point is that first of all, you should believe that you are doing the right thing. I think, Pearl, that is what kind of, to sum it up, you said that you should be believing that you are doing the right thing by helping someone, and you should not feel helpless, and then you will find different ways of reaching out to that person. There are many ways in which to reach out. One of the most important ways, I think, is to reach out to a professional, because once you reach out to a professional, that is when kind of you make it happen for your friend. And like Kavita said, this is the alcoholism is a problem, not so much
Yes.
the behavior. So we should tackle what comes first. And if that is the, so Simonica, you know who to reach out to. You could reach out to me, you could reach out to Pearl, Kavita, any one of us. Anyone you reach out to, we are going to circle back to the same person for you. So please do reach out if you feel that we can play a role in kind of talking to your friend or helping or anything like that. Please do reach out to us.
And one very important point, if I can just take another minute to say, which
Yeah,
I
yeah,
find,
Kavita, please.
especially in this world of social media and WhatsApp and status messages, which break and make relationships and things like that. A lot of women who feel that they are not, it could be, who they are, they don't have any way out. They don't see any way out. They
Correct.
end up confiding in people of the opposite sex, and
Hmm.
the person, it gets taken advantage of in this vulnerable position that she is in already.
Correct.
And this makes her again another label to her. Like this girl who had alcohol to look out for her, she gets
Ah,
the label of having gotten to an affair, which, when you sit with a domestic
Yes.
violence counselor, she's actually going to sit and understand what made you do this. And sometimes
right,
this itself is a release.
right.
I've actually seen it with so many clients of us. They feel so judged, they've judged themselves, and they come so miserable. But when they understand that this is one of the unhealthy coping mechanisms, they are going to really get their act together instead of, going even more deeper into making it's a disastrous decision. But it is the helplessness that drove you to this.
Correct, correct, correct,
That's
correct.
what a domestic violence counselor is going to tell you.
Correct, 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 correct. So I feel that we should. I think one of the most important points that I have understood with respect to helping people is that you cannot judge anybody for anything.
Absolutely.
It doesn't
Yes.
matter what kind of substance abuse they are in or whatever happens, something would have driven them to get to that point. And being the non-judgmental, I think, is one of the most powerful things that we can take away from any kind of behavior, because all our judgments tend to stem from how we've been raised or the environment we've been living in, and not necessarily they are not good, and we should avoid any kind of judgment whatsoever. Um, okay, so somebody says that I want to reach out to you to help my aunt and my uncle relationship. Thank you. That's great, Revati. We have shared a lot of lists, a lot of links with you. Pearl has also shared her email ID. Kavita has also shared her email ID. Mine is also there. Please feel free to reach out to any one of us. Any one of us, you surely guarantee that we will be reaching out back to you. So with that, I think I'm going to end the session because we have kind
Sure,
of
sure,
over
sure.
exceeded time. Had I known that our session would be so informative, and we had all our audience stick to the entire session all throughout. I think that's the most important part of a session, that it hooks you on and you stay on. And some very very relevant points were made today in the context of abuse. If you have any more questions, please feel free to drop us an email. We will be happy to take up those questions again, and happy helping. I think the most important thing is that you either help someone or you help yourself. Either ways, you are doing something which is good. So thank you so much, Pearl. Thank you so
Thank
much, Kavita,
you.
for
Thank you,
just
Ekta.
saying yes the second I asked you whether you would do the session.
Thank you.
And this is just the first webinar in our series of a few webinars going ahead. Our audience today, you will be seeing a lot more of Pearl, me, Kavita. We will have a few more people who will bring on board, and you'll be seeing a lot more of us, and you'll be understanding a lot more. So keep your questions ready. It was very, very informative, and probably the next time we will schedule our webinar for 1.5 hours instead of 1 hour. So much, and I think a lot of people who we knew registered, and I hope they found the session useful. So thank you, Pearl. Thank you, Kavita. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Ekta,
much.
for having us.
Always a pleasure to work with everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for everybody who participated. Thank you for your
Thank you for,
time.
yes,
Bye bye.
all the questions. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you to everyone. Just before I end the session, I have not said thank you to the audience. Thank you for being so patient, audience. And with that, I just end the session now.